ESPN NFL analyst Dan Orlovsky joins us each week, courtesy of MyBookie.ag. Use code NEXTROUND to double your initial deposit. That's code NEXTROUND when you visit MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag, code NEXTROUND. What is up, Dan? How are you today?
I'm doing good, boys. How are you guys?
Doing awesome. Thanks a lot. The better trade in the AFC East was the Jets trading for Davante Adams or the Bills trading for Amari Cooper. Which one was better for that team?
Yeah, it's the Jets trading for Devonte. Now, I love both trades, but the reality is the Bills were a good football team and really were a playoff football team. Now, I do think it elevates them, but the Jets were out of it. This is now you're adding a Hall of Famer to your offense. And whether people still think he's the Davante Adams that was the best receiver in football maybe 5 years ago, he's still a very, 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 very good receiver. One of the top 5, 6, 7 guys one-on-one in the NFL when it comes to just being able to play the position. So this is a team that is closer than the 2-4 record kind of implies. And I think that when you add that type of receiver to a team that, it's Super Bowl or bust, you got to go get into the dance no matter what. And you pair him with a, Super Bowl or Hall of Fame quarterback that I still think is playing better football than, maybe the moments that projected themselves. It's the Davante Adams edition.
So it's hard to question Mike Tomlin. Again, the guy has never had a losing season as a head coach. But now the reports are that Justin Fields might not get the start that we saw Russell Wilson taking a lot of snaps for the first team in practice. I think Fields has been good. I don't know how you feel about Fields. To me, there's so much more upside with Justin Fields over what you get at this career with Russell Wilson. First off, do you think it really is a possibility that Russell Wilson would be starting this week? And is it a mistake?
I think Russell's going to start. I did not think he was going to start like Tuesday of this week. As of Thursday, just listening to Shefty talk, just listening to Mike Tomlin talk, it sounds like Russell is going to start. I don't know the last time I saw this, if ever, in the NFL. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that we're in November or December, but we're a third of the way through the season. The Steelers are in first place. And they're not in third place because the quarterback's been poorly. And people say, well, they're in first place because of their defense. Well, that's probably fair. You could say that about the Vikings in many ways as well. So like this is a good football team. The quarterback has played good. If you just took the first 6 games and just spun it ahead for Justin Fields, he's going to account for 30 touchdowns and 6 turnovers this year.
Wow.
That's really good football. And so it's hard for me to conceptualize it. I don't want to pretend that he's been amazing. He has not. He's been good. He's played good, clean football, and they're winning games. I mean, they are a 4th and goal touchdown from Dak Prescott away from being 5-1. The quarterback of that team does have to matter. And so I think the biggest thing that for me is this is a bad offensive line pass protection wise. Justin's covered up for a lot of that. Russell Wilson won't, in my opinion. And I think that's going to be the thing that I'll pay attention to the most. So, yeah, it's surprising to me for sure.
How much faith? I've seen the Vikings do this before, have a great start, even a great regular season. How good are the Minnesota Vikings? I see these power rankings and this and that. How good does Dan Orlovsky think this Vikings team really is?
No, they're fantastic because they're complete. They just, if you take the defensive side of the football and first down defense, they stop the run really well. They're very sound in that. And then their blitz package is absolute hell to deal with. I mean, you want no part of it. So if you're not good on first downs against that defense, do not care who you are, you're going to play poorly. And then offensively, it's got a very good offensive line. It's got an unbelievable scheme. They can run it well, and their play action pass game is tremendous with their perimeter players. I think the thing that I'm probably most interested in is Sam Darnold, who's their quarterback, who's had a career revitalization, at least up until this point, is unbelievably talented. And he makes some really impressive and difficult throws. Can he walk that fine line consistently over the course of 18 games, 20 games, where like you fit that one into the hole, it doesn't get picked off, And so that's probably the thing that's most interesting about the situation, but they're for real.
Dan Orlovsky is with us. I want to ask you one more question on that game. MyBookie.ag brings you, Dan, code NEXTROUND when you sign on and double your initial deposit with code NEXTROUND at MyBookie.ag. Ben Johnson calling the plays for the Lions. He's had a hot hand these last 2 games, but Brian Flores, you just mentioned, that defensive coordinator, didn't work as the Dolphins head coach, an exceptional defensive coordinator there. That is almost as good as you can get it right now in coordinator versus coordinator in the NFL, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. That's probably as good of a matchup that we'll get in the regular season for sure. And so, I think the thing with both those guys that is interesting is they really see football the same way. They're both trying to dictate to the others, and they're dictating by, constant movement, and they're trying to get you to play slow. And the philosophy of it is the same. Obviously, just either side of the football is going to, the big difference. Can the Lions be really good on first down, and can the Vikings slow down a run action that is unbelievable? And I think that's who gets to their stuff the most. The Vikings want to get to their blitz package. The Lions want to get to their run action package. Who can get to their stuff the most will be the win, essentially, in that battle.
Sticking in the NFC North, fact or fiction, all 4 teams will be in the postseason.
I still say fiction on that. I think number one, it's about a little bit of what the other divisions do. I think there's 2 really good teams in the South in both Tampa and Atlanta. I think there's one clear good team in the East in Washington, and we'll see if Philly can get their act together. I'm not necessarily banking on it, but there is a talented group there. And then the West, it's I guess feels like San Francisco right now, and maybe Seattle. So I still think that the South comes into play there. I think Chicago would be the man out if you're asking me what team doesn't get in. I do think they're playing meaningful games in December, but I think 3 get in out of that division.
99% of the time, I don't ask you about my favorite team, the Bucs, but since you brought them up, I'll ask you, when you say they're good, how good? Like, how far could that team go?
So I think they're a playoff team. I do. I think that they're a playoff winning offense. I don't know how confident I am in their pass defense. I think that they play a little bit too soft when it comes to, kind of space that they give on the perimeter in their pass defense. And I think their underneath coverage can get nosy, so that gives people the opportunity to get big chunks in a pass game behind them. But I do think that offense is playoff winning good.
Randomly, if you had to take one college quarterback right now for a future franchise quarterback in the NFL, who do you think that guy is? I mean, people talk Carson Beck, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe for a minute was in that conversation.
It's a great question. I would probably take Shedeur. I think Shedeur is the best. Like, for me, quarterback-wise, is can you see it and can you place it? And I think he's the best at that stuff. Do you see what the defense is doing, and can you place the football where it has to get placed? I would probably take Shedeur at that. Now, Quinn's talented. I haven't seen enough of him. Jalen is obviously skyrocketing. Carson's been streaky a little bit, but consistency in that, I would take Shedeur.
Now, we know how it works. You don't just sit in the studio and only watch the game that is on the network where you're doing the studio show, but that happened to be the Alabama-South Carolina game. You are watching a lot of it. When you watched Alabama-South Carolina Saturday in the studio there, your takeaway from Alabama football right now is what?
They got lucky. The game was given to them, by South Carolina. I think that South Carolina, I guess I'm surprised at how poor Alabama has been across the lines of scrimmage. I think that's 2 weeks in a row that they've been outplayed in that regard. I think that's 2 weeks in a row where they've been out physicaled in that regard. And that's surprising for someone who has, seen so much of Alabama play over the past, obviously decade, but certainly a couple years. And so, it gives me a lot of reservation with the Tennessee game this weekend, because Tennessee's really physical, specifically on their defensive line. So I am very interested to watch that game this weekend, but I was unimpressed with the line of scrimmage performance by Bama.
Yeah, you're not alone in that one. You should know. You sound like a lot of people that watch this show every day.
What about that onside kick though? The spin on that. Have you ever been on the hands team on a kick recover?
Hands wise, I have not been. Hands wise, I could have. Quarterbacks probably have the best hands going because we play catch every day of our life for 20 years. Athletically and size wise, no shot. I would have been sawed in half.
Yeah, I'd never seen one drop kicked like that before. I thought that was very innovative. That was fantastic.
Well, those kickers do nothing in practice, so all they do is find creative ways to like kick a ball or play cards. So no, it was sweet. It was sweet. A lot of those kickers are just so talented with what they're capable of doing. So it was awesome. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you go watch the interception that ends the game, if you see there's a corner route that's at the very top of the screen to the left of the field, if the quarterback throws that, it's 25, 30 yards, and they're an easy range. He, young quarterback just launched the ball upfield, but there was a completely uncovered wide receiver for Carolina.
Absolutely.
All right, he is Dan Orlovsky. Mostly talks NFL with us. We like to pick his college brain occasionally as well. Each week, courtesy of mybookie.ag. Thank you very much, Dan. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games.
You too, guys.
All right, buddy. We'll see you. Dan with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Johnston RV Center brings you all of our guests, and mybookie.ag brings you Dan, where you find that game tonight. A Broncos 3-point road favorite as Bo Nix makes that start in the Dome there against Spencer Rattler. MyBookie.ag is where you can play it. Code next round gets you that sign-on bonus. Double your initial deposit at MyBookie.ag.